Good afternoon, YouTube. Here's another update on my printers. As you know, these are my first 3D printers, so I'm very much so a newbie. What I've done so far is this weekend I've installed Clipper on both the Ender 2 Pro and the Ender 3 S1 Pro. I'm using Raspberry Pi version, they are 4Bs. They're both, I think, 2 gig units, and this one I have in a little 90 by 60 by 30 box with a 3.5 inch touchscreen, which I happen to have. I had 2 of those setups. I took the guts out of the second one and I put it in a case that I printed out with this 7-inch Pi touchscreen, and I printed out the box in a bracket, and I actually created a support bracket because unfortunately I ran out of PETG, so which is a little firmer, so I had a little too much play. So that little flimsy support bracket may not look like a heck of a lot. It's bolted down there and it's double-sided taped on this side, but you know, it prevents it from, it was wobbling around before. Now it's pretty good. Once I get some PETG, I'll be able to or ABS, I'll print another one of these, and I might actually make it a little bit thicker. This is about 5mm, which is what the original bracket width was, but these bolts they give you are only the bare minimum. I think they are they're M4 by 18s. So in order to do this appropriately, because right now realistically only the top bolts really holding it to the chassis, the 2 bottom ones are just kind of in there. I need, like, for the 2 bottom ones, they need to be like M4 25s. So I'll probably get some for that anyways and then replace it. But I do have these 2 parts printed separately so I can reproduce them at will. Any other updates? I've been messing around with a bunch of slicers. Not really too thrilled with Cura 5.0 or 5.1. It's not that great. And the Prusa slicer right now just won't even launch anymore. And I was running 4.2, whatever the latest release was, and then I went to the beta, and for some, there must have been a Windows update or something, but now it just, when you go to try to select the printer, it just freezes. And I've uninstalled it and reinstalled it a number of times, so there's something going on there. I'm not sure what it is though. But so far I'm very happy with the way this is coming out. I like the larger touchscreen. This is more of a realistic layout than the factory, and the factory one's not exactly a small touchscreen, but it's only, I think, a 4.3. And while it works, it doesn't give you, like, all the functionality is buried in the menu structure isn't that great. I mean, this was my first printer, so I started with this menu structure, so I was actually perfectly fine with it. But I've seen other reviewers and they were like, well, the menu, like, just to go to, like, do steppers or something, you got to go down like a couple sub menus, and you can't change, like, on here while even if the print wasn't running, I could click on here and change the temp of the hot end or the bed, even if it's not running the print. And in the Marlin firmware and everything that's being run on this printer, through their interface, you'd have to wait till the print starts, and then you'd have to go to, like, 2 separate menus. Same thing with the calibration. Was a little weird trying to set up calibration on it. This is a little way more intuitive, and just the menu structure just makes sense, with the exception of one thing. And the shutdown option for Clipper is kind of buried. So, you know, like, I'd expect it to be either like a shortcut here to shut it off, which would make more sense, like just a normal fake power button, so to speak. But it's fine. I don't have a problem with it, really, to be quite honest with you. I am working on getting the previews to show up. They don't show up in the Creality slicer, which is just a reskin Cura 4.82, I believe. And I don't know why. I'm running the plugins and I just can't seem to get them to load. I'm sure it's some sort of weird G-code thing. But but it does work in regular Cura. But Regular Cura doesn't. I got to go through the settings on it. The output isn't great. I've had a lot of prints failing. Even trying to mimic the same profiles, and I still get some weirdness with it. I'm not sure what it is. But anyways, back to here. I like that I can remote print now. I don't have to use the SD cards anymore. I can do it all from my PC, which is nice. Of course, also with the increased amount of storage. My dogs are playing here. Come on, guys. Anyways, the increased amount of storage, because I'm actually using the two Pis. I think this one's 64 gig and the other one's 32. You can pretty much just load all your G code onto these, and then you can just view everything. Now I'm using a colored theme on that screen because it's big and easy to read. On the little ones, I actually went to the light background because these aren't very good. These are just I think these are just TFT touch panels. They're nothing. They're not IPS or anything. So they tend to wash out a lot. So using the light GUI interface with the colors, it seems to work better. You can just read everything easier. Also, I'm going to probably replace this screen because it's, you have to press down harder on it. It's not capacitive, and you can see the. I mean, it says it's 50 hertz, but it scrolls like it's 5. I mean, it is not great. Like maybe if I use the stylus, maybe let's see. Yeah, see, even the stylus doesn't want to do anything for me. Come here. There we go. Gotta press real hard to get it to respond. Oh, you know what? I'm thinking maybe. I think maybe I still have the plastic on this one, don't I? Yeah, I still have the plastic on it. That's probably why the response is much worse, because I gotta really press down to get it to do its thing. But it works. Whatever. Menu system's of course exactly the same as the one in that format, but it's in vertical just because I wanted to keep the footprint of this one small, even though not that it would come out far, but I just wanted to keep it like that. I am actually printing a new mount, which is an updated version of this one. This new mount can actually be mounted on this system too. It'll have mount holes on that side. And also I made a change in it. I put a cutout for the power, for the USB Type-C power on the opposite side. So when you put it on that side, you can flip it around. Because even though it sticks up like this and you can run the power over, it might be more convenient to have the option to be able to flip it over and do the power from the opposite side if you want to. You don't have to, but excuse me, I've just figured that was a good solution for that. And I may never even use it, but I'm still going to go put it up on the web for access if somebody happens to find that it's useful. I like it because I like that, like, even though this is small, you could lift it up and off the well, sometimes you can in one hand. It's not great. There we go. You can lift it off the hooks and actually do what you want with it, and then put it back down on it. I actually like that. I'm gonna change this. There it is. I gotta change this is the older one. Everything is right here, but the things on the back aren't quite lined up. That's why I redid that one. But it does work for what you want it to do. So I actually like it. I tried all the other themes and colorized, which is this one, is good because it's dark. And I know on this screen it looks washed out because I've got my I don't know how to change the ISO settings on the phone, but on here it's just too much. But it is readable. But I will probably upgrade this, and unfortunately, if I go to a screen that large, I think I'm going to go to a 5-inch for this instead of a 7, and then turn it the other way, I guess. I mean, a 5-inch will still probably fit this way, but I probably have to redo the mount, and I'd like it angled more forward. So this one I have angled the way I would like it. Normally people would put it more flat But the problem with that is that then makes the printer much wider than it needs to be. And I might think about designing a kind of like a monitor arm type thing, using the sprocketed, the little the teeth gears, with a screw to help lock it in place, so it can actually be adjusted more. I kind of would like this, like kind of like right here, like maybe this height looking at you would be cool. And the ability to pivot it. So I might even put a pivot ball on the back of this as is existing, so it can be turned around whichever, which would be kind of cool. And then I'm gonna figure out how to wire. I'd like to figure out how to wire this interface internally, so I can run the cord instead of from here out where the factory location is for the original ribbon cable. This way there's no interface up front here and it comes out the side. So I'm going to research that and work on doing something like that. So far, I've been getting pretty good results with my prints overall. Nothing too crazy. I did do some testing on the little one with this new filament I'm using. It's very stringy, even at this temp, which I think is 190, and I think it says it was rated like to go up to 235. There's no way, because at 220 you can make like a web with it. It's almost a solid wall at 220. There's no way this thing could print at 235, but whatever. It's inland, so it's not expensive stuff. This is the retraction tower, just stringing all the way up. That's at 5, so originally I had it set for 7. I'm running at 6 now. Seems to be better. So it's a good idea, especially if you're a newbie and you're not sure what settings to do your prints at, to maybe look into the tools, the plugins from Cura for the this one is, I think it's called the fan. Yeah, this one's the fan tower test, but realistically it's a temperature test. I just don't enable the fan on the plugin. And then and this one's the extraction test, which is important, especially on this this clear stuff. So it feels harder than the regular PLA, but it's stringy as heck. The regular PLA is pretty flexible. I mean, I could probably kill somebody with this. It's so hard. But print quality, I mean, this is just off of this machine. I mean, I'm just gonna get that focus. The lines are very sharp on it, and not really any real ghosting. There's some layer lines, but this is printed very fine, and the walls aren't thick. But when you feel it, it's actually very smooth, very good. I'm very, very happy with this little machine. Actually, it's been doing very well. No problem with the build plate, except for I had one filament. The inland PLA gray, the matte, just generic gray, did not want to stick to this, no matter what setting I put it at. And you can't put the bed height too high, or else it'll try to melt the filament. This is PLA Plus in blue, and I have been having some bed adhesion issues with it on this bed, but it prints fine on this material. What I found is, and if you find you're running into an issue with your prints warping at the edges, especially because they're just not sticking to the bed, this is a perfect example right here. This one, if I lay it down flat, you see the edges have now been peeling up. This thing barely, I've had this print fail 3 times, and the edges barely were holding it on. I literally just, with it hot, just wisped it off, no big deal. What I found is maybe move your print, because that print was actually far forward, and the way the bed designs are, it's like a rear window defroster. It's just a bunch of grid lines underneath it, and it only goes so far. Like you can see here, you can see where it ends. It actually ends a few inches in, where the it's got a what do you call it? It's got a barrier under there to help keep the heat in. I don't know why I'm having a mental block on the word for it. Insulation. And that means that it's going to be hotter where the area pad is, and I'm assuming it's even hotter more maybe in the middle, and then it gets colder to the edge. So if you're having a problem with your adhesion and you're printing like here, move it to the middle and get it away from the edges so it can help maintain the heat better. Plus, the temperatures have been a little lower today. Last night was kind of cool. Over the past week, it's been super hot in here. So the day that it started getting colder, I started noticing this more. Usually this room is pretty sweltering. It's like about 80, 81 degrees with both printers running, and you know, my workstation over here and my work over here. Usually this room's pretty hot, but it's been a little bit colder, and I could feel some drafty air. So I think that definitely has an effect on your prints. Another thing I wanted to mention was on this machine. Oh yeah, this machine was shutting down on me. The clipper was shutting down, and then I was getting these errors that the MCU values were triggering the shutdown, essentially saying that the heat was too high, but it wouldn't tell me what heat it was talking about. So I was like, I looked online and I found a bunch of posts here and there, and a lot of people were like, oh yeah, maybe you have a broken thermistor wire or something's loose or whatever. And I did actually take this hot end apart this past week to see if it was clogged. Well, I've been working on some extrusion issues, and it was perfectly spotless. It was clean as heck. So I definitely had the new Bowden tube in the way it should be and all that. So here's a little tip that you might want to look at if you get the similar errors. If you go to Clipper and you find that it's shutting down and you're getting the same messages, is preheat the system and then watch the temperatures and see if they fluctuate, and whether or not you need to run PID tuning on your temperatures, and see if the values go up and down too much and it can't maintain the temp values. Like if you look over here, you can see bed's maintaining pretty well, but you can see that the temp is dropping and going up and down by about a degree. Same thing with the bed, but it's only about a degree, and that really shouldn't affect anything. And if you see that, you can in the print maybe up at 1 degree if you want to keep it within that margin. Watching on this machine, I was noticing that the bed temp was going over 80 degrees, so it was showing it was over 80 degrees, and on the day that this was occurring, it was really hot in this room. So I'm thinking that bed temp was hitting like 81 or something, and because the hot end was actually being what it was supposed to be, but it also has, mind you, it's got a cooling fan on it too, so the hot end was maintaining its temperature. But what I think was occurring was that the bed temp was going over the maximum threshold, and then it was triggering that it was overheating. I ended up going in and looking in the config files for this system to see what the min-max was, and what I found was, let me see here. Alright. Okay, so what I found was in the printer config, alright, under heater bed, minimum was 0, which is what you would expect, but maximum was 80, and I know that this system was, I believe it's rated at 80 for the bed. So all I did was I bumped up the max temp to 85. I don't set it to 85, and 5 degrees isn't going to burn the barn down. So, and since I set that to 85, gave it a little bit of a buffer, it hasn't reported that error since then. And although today's cooler, yesterday was very warm, and the day it was doing it was really hot. So that seemed to work out pretty well. You save and config it, and during the shutdown it won't actually turn back on. It actually, I believe it in the config file had I believe it commented it out that it wasn't even going to use it, so it wouldn't start because it was commented out. So that's kind of interesting, that the firmware and the software have the ability to kind of act as a failsafe. So after it does that, it gives you an error message on the primary dashboard. This is mainsail, and basically telling you, you know, system halted due to this error message, and until you configure it and then save the configuration and restart it. What it did was it actually put a save and restart option up here for a menu option after I fixed the issue with the bed, which is actually very cool. So that's pretty much what I've been doing. I find this stuff very interesting. I am a very much so a newbie. I am a technical guy. I mean, I work in IT and I do everything. I work on cars and building machines and laptops and all that. So it's not terribly difficult to understand, but there is definitely a lot of tweaking and playing you have to do, which I would say if you just want a printer to print, I wouldn't maybe go as far as doing what I did and throw Clipper on everything on the planet. I just find it's interesting, and I like having the ability to print wirelessly from here. And as a matter of fact, I can print from every device I own in my house now to these printers. I don't even have to be connected to them anymore. I just got to work on the interfacing between the PI. You need to get a shorter, maybe a 90 degree, like a very small 4 or 5 inch 90 degree for this unit. And this one, I found a couple of pigtail harnesses that were USB, but they were listed as console cables. I kind of want to find out whether or not I can actually somehow wire that into the internal leads on the USB interfaces internally on both of these. That's really what I kind of want to do, and then get these leads run from underneath like normal. I want them to come out here from the machine underneath and maybe go in with a 90 degree here. Would be nice. Or even wire it directly to the board and run a port out from here into there and then make it cleaner. I just find it pretty interesting that I can actually do some of that. But other than that, everything else has been running good. I put the new rollers on the hot end and the bed on here. That seemed to be fine, but the extrusion on this has got some, I want to say it's probably not casting, it's probably powder coating. I don't know if that's what these, I think these might be powder coated, but it seems like it's got some imperfections in it, and that seems to be where I was getting my weird noise. Now that I know that that's what it is, I'm not really so concerned about it. I thought I had like maybe the rail was twisted or something like that, and it's not. So, but other than that, it's been pretty good. So if anybody has any questions, comments, or whatever, put it down below, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.